Yo, happy 2026 everyone! Earlier last year, I did a timeline video for the game Dragon Ball Online, and I always wanted to do one for the actual Dragon Ball series since then. So I'm going to be covering important dates or estimated dates of events and notable things that happen within the Dragon Ball timeline. I'll clarify when a timeline event is from a different timeline or series. Other than that, let's get into it. We know before the multiverse existed, there was the Demon Realm. While we don't have a date, we know at one of the earliest points in time that a good Supreme Demon King decided to expand his domain. And so, he ordered the Super Majin Raimus to create the multiverse beyond their realm. Many Majin then moved out into these new universes, and the Glind were sent to watch over them as Supreme Kai. The Kais would then be responsible for creating new planets and populating the universe, creating a lot of the creatures and mortal races we know today, like Saiyans and humans. In Daima, we are told that Raimus remains the highest authority in the universe and probably passed down the role of Overseer to Zeno. Or maybe he is Zeno, new 2026 theory? Eventually, some mortals would prove themselves worthy of training under the children of the Grand Priest and become gods of destruction. They would be tasked with destroying planets to maintain balance in the universe, and be given extended lifespans to live for millions of years. Year 41 of the Divine Calendar. The Divine Calendar was brought up when Zuno talked to Bulma and Jaco, where he described in its 41st year the dragon god Zalama created planet-sized objects called the Super Dragon Balls. Whether these came before or after the Demon Realm set is unknown, but one was clearly based on the other and both are said to be the original set. Either way, the Dragon Balls from Planet Namek were originally pieces broken off from these planet-sized behemoths. In the following year, Zalama made a patent on the technology used to make the stars of the Super Dragon Balls appear the same from every angle. Don't let him know the Namekians got the same thing going on with theirs, or he may sue them out of a planet. Around 75 million years before Age. If you recall, Age is the term used for years in Dragon Ball. The dates we'll be talking about from here on out are known to take place certain years before Age 0. The Old Kai is 15 generations older than Shin and was more than likely born at this point. Considering Shin didn't seem to show up in the timeline before Buu's rampage, we can imagine he can't be much more than 5 million years old. He seemed very inexperienced and young even by the Buu arc, which means he's probably a first generation Kaioshin. So do the math, and the Old Kai being 75 million years old at bare minimum is usually the agreed upon consensus. At some point, he would fuse with an old witch and gain new magical abilities. Every 1,000 years, he and Beerus would meet to discuss how to maintain Universe 7. However, after a minor upset, Beerus would become unreasonably angry, as he tends to do. Since he was most likely soul bonded to the Old Kai, he couldn't kill him, so he ended up trapping him in the Z-Sword. The knowledge of the Old Kai's imprisonment was lost to time, and only a legend of the power the sword contained remained to the modern day. In the Dragon Ball Heroes timeline, 75 million years before Age, Klonoa and Mechikabura fight over successorship for Eos's position as the Supreme Kai of Time. Klonoa would eventually seal the demon away along with his minions in the crack of time. Some point after, she would defeat Demigra, who sought to take her title by force, banishing him as well. 10 million years before Age. The sorcerer Moro had been rampaging through the universe, consuming the life force of countless planets. As Beerus, useful as ever in keeping universal peace, was fast asleep, it fell upon the Grand Supreme Kai to take him down. After he used up much of his godly power and strength to seal away Moro's magic, the old goat was nerfed to a point where he could be held in a Galactic Patrol prison. Since there's nobody strong enough at this point to execute him, he's doomed to live the rest of his life in prison. While we don't know when these next events happened, they had to take place before our next date, so they'll be placed here. In Daima, we are told the influx of people coming from in and out of the Demon Realm disrupt the peace on its planet Namek. To protect his people, the legendary Namekian Neva put barriers up between the tunnels that connect the 3 demon worlds. The Sur Warp system was then created as a way to get around in the tunnel's place. The Supreme Demon King Abra utilized a magical item called the Third Eye that gave him tremendous power to crush any force against his rule. Despite this, he was a very anxious king and saw open travel to the demon realm as a major threat. He placed strict limitations on the Sur Warp system and caused the demon realm to become isolated from the greater multiverse. In response, the majority of the Glend race then leave the realm to spread among the different universes. It would be around this time that Shin would join the other Kais of Universe 7 as an apprentice. Prince Dabura would enact his scheme to steal the Third Eye, and it became lost within the Third Demon World. With the source of Abura's great power gone, Dabura easily took over and became the new Supreme Demon King. During this time frame, Zeno hosts the All-Universe Hide-and-Seek tournament. It's eventually cancelled when Beerus naps through it for 50 years, causing Zeno to nearly wipe out the whole multiverse in anger. These circumstances would cause Lord Beerus to become hated by the rest of the Destroyers. 5 million years before Age. It seemed that Shin and the other Supreme Kai of Universe 7 lived in relative peace, watching over the universe. However, a witch named Marba from the Demon Realm would end up creating their very downfall. She would manifest a powerful artificial Majin named Boo for the wizard Bibidi, who would then unleash it upon Universe 7. The creature would tear through galaxies, provoking the Supreme Kai to put a stop to the madness. It was more than they bargained for, with the North and West Kai falling in battle easily. South Supreme Kai and the Grand Supreme Kai would be absorbed into Boo's being, giving him a more innocent and easier to control personality. Shin would manage to escape the onslaught and end Bibidi's life as Boo's cocoon landed on Earth. Lucky for Beerus that he survived, as Shin's death could have spelled eradication for the Destroyer. It's unclear if the old Kai still had a connection to Beerus at this point. Wishing to not awaken Boo with any shock, Shin believed it was enough that there was no one left who could awaken the Majin again, and so let the creature be. About a few thousand years before Age 0, the Namekians would grow tired of people from the other demon worlds harassing them. There would be a mass exodus into Universes 6 and 7, with Neva staying behind to greet any of his people that wished to return. 4,237 years before Age. The Daizenshu mentions that this is when Garlic Jr.'s ancestors left the Makio star to live on Earth. As we don't know their lifespans, it's unclear if Garlic Sr. was alive at the time. 1,104 years before Age. According to a Super Dragon Ball Heroes trailer, this is the estimated date of when Bardock was sent back in time in Episode of Bardock. This would put him on Planet Plant long before the arrival of the Saiyans and face off against Frieza's ancestor Chilled. After becoming a Super Saiyan, he would put Chilled on his deathbed, with the Tyrant warning his people about the terrifying warrior. What happened to Bardock after this is unknown, most likely living out the rest of his life in peace. 739 years before Age. The Daizenshu claims this is when Princess Snake settled her castle on Snake Way. Around 238 years before Age. On the planet of Sadala, the Saiyan race is divided into 2 factions. A majority of evil Saiyans faces off against a handful of good Saiyans. The small group of pure-hearted warriors was led by Yamushi, and they fought valiantly against hordes of their evil brethren. However, tragedy must have struck, as Yamushi became the first recorded Super Saiyan in legend. At the end of the battle though, Yamushi fell due to exhaustion plus the impossible odds he was up against. His spirit would not move on to the afterlife though, and so he persisted to find a new power, the form of the Super Saiyan God. His presence would be picked up by the Oracle Fish and a Namekian Elder, creating the Super Saiyan God Prophecy. In Dragon Ball Heroes, the legendary Evil Saiyan Cumber must have come from this era. His anger at Goku's red hair suggests that he encountered a Super Saiyan God at some point in the ancient past. Shallot and Giblet from Legends are descendants from the original Super Saiyan God, with no mention of a name. But, Battle of Gods claims that the Saiyan that stood up to the evil Saiyans was the Super Saiyan God. Could Yamoshi's spirit have instructed more good Saiyans on how to achieve the form, or was he actually the god himself? All of this is a bit jumbled and nebulous, but different interpretations are always something that make a myth interesting. 237 years before Age. Our good old pal Turtle is born on this day, showing just how much of an ancient reptile he truly is. 226 years before age. The past events of Wrath of the Dragon take place here, with Hirudegarn being unleashed on planet Konats. Warriors Tapion and Minosha absorb two halves of the demon into their bodies and are sealed away in music boxes. They are meant to be kept apart and never opened again. A new timeline must also happen at this date, as Tapion used a time machine to return here. What exactly happened is hard to say, but his goal was to prevent Hirudegarn's rampage from ever happening. 220 years before age. The Universe 6 assassin Hit is born sometime before this point, as in the modern day he claimed to be over 1,000 years old. Makes you wonder for how long of his life he's been an assassin. The Daizenshuu gives us some dates for the following bits of information. Around 50 years before age, the great martial arts master Korin is born. He apparently lived in Otherworld and at some point was sent to assist the god of Earth, taking residence under the lookout in his own tower. Bandages the Mummy would also be born around this time, one day joining fortune teller Baba as one of her prized warriors. Age 176. Another one of Baba's fighters, Fanes the Vampire, is born this year. And around age 250, fortune teller Baba would begin using her powers to make a profit by seeing into people's futures. If people couldn't pay the massive price of 10 million zeni up front, they would have to face her warriors in battle for the future to be read. In the lore of Dragon Ball Online, we are told that the last independent province on Earth, named Yaoi, becomes integrated with the rest of the world's singular government. While it is mentioned in the manga, we see this place during some early Dragon Ball filler. Age 261. King Yemma would make his way to King Kai's by running across Snake Way. How much he ended up learning from him is unknown, but Yemma is considered pretty powerful by early Z standards. Up until Goku's run, he was the only person to make it to King Kai's in the last 100 million years. The same year is the terrible event of Planet Namek's deadly cataclysm. As the planet's population was nearly wiped out, a man named Katas sends his child to space, who eventually lands on Earth. Guru was the only survivor left on planet Namek, eventually repopulating his home by himself. Age 430. The future turtle hermit, Master Roshi, is born this year. Something crazy to consider is that his sister Baba started her business 180 years ago, meaning she's probably at least around 200 years old when Roshi was born. So their mom, dad, or both parents lived for an incredibly long time. 1 year later, in age 431, the child of Katas, having wandered the earth for nearly 170 years, found the god of Earth and became their apprentice. At some point, the bee named Garlic also became the god's apprentice, becoming the nameless Namekian's rival. Age 448. An 18-year-old Roshi and a young Shen learned under the martial arts master Mutaito. In the anime flashback, Roshi and Shen would have different designs compared to their King Piccolo arc outfits, but you could assume maybe they both donned their proper apprentice look later. Here, they compete over the affection of a fellow student named Fanfan, more than likely an ancestor to Ronfan. About 2 years later in age 450, Roshi would temporarily leave the school to climb and train on Korin's tower. He would be tasked with stealing the sacred water, but it wouldn't be so easy. The training would keep on going, with him seemingly unable to end this stalemate for years. Age 451. King Kai would interact with Beerus, and through one reason or another, depending on the story, he would anger the irritable destroyer. In his frustration, Beerus would reduce King Kai's planet to a small orb. Around age 453. It took about 3 years, but 23-year-old Roshi would finally grab the sacred water from Korin and complete his training. He then went back to continue his training with Master Mutaito. Age 459. Tao Pai Pai, the brother of Shen, is born according to the Daizenshuu. This would mean, for reasons made clear in just a minute, he could not be a student of Mutaito. So, he would most likely be trained in Shen's crane style years down the line. Age 461. The nameless Namekian had proved himself to be a worthy candidate as the next god of Earth. In GT, he would have created the Black Star Dragon Balls around this time, something he did out of instinct as a Namekian. But, evil dwelled within him due to the violence and hatred of the world poisoning his heart. The god would not hand over his position until his heart was cleansed. So Kami would expel this force of negative emotions into a mirror version of himself. It would don the name Demon King Piccolo and wage war on the world down below. The good half would take the title of God, or Kami, and watch over the chaos below. King Vegeta's mutated Namekian spawn plagued the Earth, and martial artists around the world rose up to subdue them. As Mutaito's students held their own, Piccolo would descend to fight them himself. All of Mutaito's students, besides a 31-year-old Roshi and Shen, were killed, and so the old master utilized his last-ditch secret weapon. At the cost of his own life, he sent out the Mafuba to seal Piccolo away in a rice cooker, ending the monster's reign for the time being. In the anime, Mutaito fought Piccolo and suffered major defeat, going on to develop the Mafuba after years of training. That means in the anime, King Piccolo's Age of Chaos lasted for several years. Due to personal differences, the two surviving students would go on their separate ways, founding the Turtle School and Crane School. Roshi would toss the rice cooker into the depths, hoping that no one would ever find it. At some point after this, Garlic Sr. would attempt to pull the same stunt as Piccolo with his hordes of demons, but Kami would trap him in a dimension known as the Dead Zone. Age 470. Once again out of instinct, Kami makes another set of Dragon Balls, these being the ones we know and love today. Little did he know just how important these objects would be to the history of the multiverse. Age 474. At some point, Supreme Demon King Dabura had been possessed by the son of Bibidi, named Babidi. They would send scouts to Earth at this time to inspect if the lifeforms there could provide ample energy for Majin Buu's resurrection. Around age 550, at some point in the past, the Saiyans lost their homeworld of Sadala. Maybe by Yamoshi's rampage, maybe by some other conflict. According to the Daizenshu, they would land on Planet Plant and set up settlements on this year. About a century later in age 650, the 3-star Dragon Ball would wash upon Roshi's tiny island. The over 200-year-old turtle hermit would make it into a necklace. This would also be the year of the first ever World Martial Arts Tournament. Age 658. This is the birth date of Gohan. No, not that one, the other one. Sometime in the future, many years later, he would train under Master Roshi with a young Ox King, becoming Roshi's only known students before the modern day. Age 662. The Daizenshu says this is when Kami would tell Mr. Popo about his past, or at least what he remembers since landing on Earth. This would be key in figuring out how they can reach Namek after the Saiyan arc. Age 670. The future renowned scientist Tokunoshin Omori was born this year. He would grow up to one day work for the world government, trying to learn the secrets of time travel, until an accident ended the lives of many people and his wife, forcing the government to put an end to the project. Somewhere between age 692 and 693 is the time frame of Pansy's birth. Age 698. The future mobster Monster Carrot is born on this year. Also, in the time frame between age 703 and 712 is the birth date of Nappa, due to the Daizenshu calling him over 50 years old by the Saiyan arc. Being a mid-class Saiyan means he was more than likely born into a mid-class family and was trained as an elite warrior, escaping the fate of being sent to another planet as a newborn. Age 710, the year King Choppa is born. A skilled martial artist, he would manage to one day become a world martial arts champion. But on his birth year, the 13th World Martial Arts Tournament was won by a 280-year-old Master Roshi, making his name known throughout the martial arts world. This was stated in material for the World's Strongest movie, so this could be the case in the main timeline, or he won another tournament outside of this one. Age 712. Dragon Ball Online tells us this is the year of Capsule Corp's foundation by Dr. Briefs, made possible thanks to his incredible capsule technology. Around this time, Dr. Wheelo would brew a devious plot in his lab far away from civilization, deciding to take over the world with a cyborg army. Unfortunately for him, the ice walls around his lair collapsed, sealing him away from the world. One of his cyborgs, Dr. Kochin, would then search the Earth for a way to break the seal of ice. Age 714. Emperor Pilaf is born, most likely growing up in an environment that would cultivate his desire to rule the planet. Ninja Murasaki is also born, and is the oldest of the Murasaki brothers who would obviously be born after him. Age 717. The dinosaurian beast named Giran was born, eventually growing up to train and compete in the World Martial Arts Tournament. The genius scientist Senbei Norimaki is born this year as well, and would go on to create many insane inventions in Penguin Village. Age 719. The future martial artist Manwolf was born this year. Considering his reverse werewolf condition, he was most likely born an anthropomorphic wolf. Age 720. Mr. and Mrs. Brief's first child, Tights, is born. She would gain her father's genius, graduating from university when she turned 16. Starting on this year, the Saiyan-Sulfurian War took place. After around 170 years of uneasy coexistence, King Vegeta III would lead an uprising against the planet's current inhabitants. Also, if he's Vegeta III, and we assume his grandparent and great-grandparent were also named Vegeta, and the Saiyans have lifespans relative to humans, then the 170 years spent here means that the Vegeta family name must have been founded on Planet Plant rather than Sadala or any previous world. A young Nappa would also have been part of the fighting force, probably a significant step in proving his usefulness to the royal family. The war raged on with no end in sight, and the Sulfurians held their ground. Age 721. The silent warrior Nam was born in a quaint village on this year. He would most likely grow up facing the struggles of constant droughts from the region, inspiring him to one day compete in the world tournament to save his people. Age 722. General Blue of the Red Ribbon Army was born this year. Age 726. Ron Fan, a possible descendant of Roshi's old flame Fan, is born on this year. Age 730. At 271 years old, I guess being so bored not putting his martial arts to the test, Tao Pai Pai becomes a mercenary for hire, eventually becoming a big name in the criminal underworld. The decade-long Saiyan-Sulfurian War would finally come to an end when the full moon appeared on this year. It was a complete massacre, yet two Sulfurian scientists used their advanced technologies to ensure years later their deaths would be avenged. Age 731. The Cerulean Granola is born on planet Cereal this year. The Daizenshuu claims at this time, King Cold forcefully brings the Saiyans into his empire, turning them into the planet-cleansing mercenaries we know today. We are also told King Vegeta would marry his unnamed wife this year, creating the foundation for his royal family. Age 732. Prince Vegeta is born on this date along with Paragus' son Broly. After King Cold passes down his empire to Frieza, introducing him to the Saiyans, King Vegeta would stake the future of his people on his son. But the anomaly of Broly upsets the jealous king, sending the boy to Vampa with Paragus in pursuit. The father and son would be stranded there with little hope for rescue. On this same year, Launch would be born as well. Funny to think that she's the same age as Vegeta, but I guess she's never around for you to really think about it. Age 733. The future Z warriors Bulma, Yamcha, and Tien are born on this year. On May 8th of the same year, the current leader of the world, King Furry, was sworn into office. At some point between this and Planet Vegeta's destruction, the Saiyan Prince Tarbal is born, sent away in disgrace by his father for being too weak to be super elite royalty. Age 734. If you go by Dragon Ball Minus, this is when Goku would be born. The same year, his father would be part of an invasion against Planet Cereal, wiping out the entire population outside of a Cerulean boy and a Namekian elder. Bardock would fight against the Heater Gang before eventually escaping. Age 735. Yajirobe would be born, eventually growing to become a country-dwelling samurai. The Daizenshuu would claim that this is the time when Frieza would start to develop a deep-seated mistrust and anxiety over the Saiyans. This would be a year after Elec warned Bardock of Frieza's intentions with the Saiyans, so he probably felt this way even before now. In GT, this was when Baby started developing his plan to turn the universe into Sulfurians. Age 736. The strongest human in history, and Krillin, were born on this very year. Age 737. Chi-Chi would be born to the Ox King and his wife. Sadly, her mother would die of an illness in the same year. Makes sense why Ox King is so protective of her. Miguel, the wife of Mr. Satan, would be born this year as well. The Daizenshuu tells us that the current Raditz-level Cybermen were being produced this year, likely assisting in terrorizing the galaxy. They would find themselves with a lot of work to fill, as Frieza decided this was the year he'd wipe out the Saiyans. Bardock would lose his whole squad and one way or another have a sense of Frieza's plot. In Minus, he would send his son to Earth to protect him, and in Father of Goku, he would face Frieza alone. Either way, he would perish with most of the Saiyan race, and Goku would be sent to Earth. Except for an episode of Bardock where Frieza's death ball sent him back 1,841 years ago somehow. Also, Goku would be born this year if you don't go by Minus's version of events. Similarly, Z-Movie Broly would be born near the same day as Goku. As the Saiyan child landed on Earth, he would be found by a 79-year-old Gohan, taking on the boy as his grandson. The Galactic King would send Galactic Patrol member Jaco to find the Saiyan and destroy him. Luckily for the multiverse, Jaco didn't end up finding him, and just goes through the events of his spin-off manga. Age 738. Chaozu was born on this year, one day joining the Crane School. Age 739. According to the Daizenshuu, a fire spirit would set the Ox King and Chi-Chi's home on fire, renaming the place to Mount Frypan. On this same year, the Oracle Fish would have a premonition that in 39 years, a being known as a Super Saiyan God would appear and provide a challenge to Beerus. Age 740. Ulan, Puar, and the Jingle Village resident Suno was born. Krillin would start his training at the Orin Temple, being bullied by his peers. Around this time in GT, the Planet M2 resident Dr. Mew would find the baby parasite and be transformed by it. After being given knowledge of Sulfurian technology and the memories of their king, he begins to put baby's plans into action. Age 744. It's around this time that the evil wizard Hoi seeks to find Tapion's music box and awaken Hirudegarn. Age 745. Dr. Senbei would create the robot Arale, and would go on to live a life of wacky hijinks with his mechanical daughter. Age 747. Yamcha would meet Puar and start an everlasting friendship. Age 748. Roshi's immortal Phoenix dies of food poisoning, all the while his companion turtle becomes lost while searching for mushrooms. Pre-September of age 749. As Bulma enters high school, she finds the 2-star ball in her father's basement. Dr. Brees must have stumbled upon it or been given it to study. Either way, this would start the chain of events that would lead to the first arc of Dragon Ball. As Amori, Tights, and Jaco reunite to catch up, Bulma would start her hunt for the Dragon Balls with her newly invented Dragon Radar, finding the 5-star ball in a cave up north. And from here on out are the original events of the Dragon Ball series. I don't need to go over every event in great detail, so I'll just talk about what happened on what dates and interject anything interesting to bring up. The rest of age 749. From September 1st to September 9th is the Search for the Dragon Balls arc. The next day, and for the rest of the year, Goku and Krillin go through Roshi's rigorous training. And in October, Bulma went back to high school. The Dragon Ball retellings Curse of the Blood Rubies, The Sleeping Princess in the Devil's Castle, and The Path to Power take place this year. Age 750. At the beginning of April, Goku and Krillin intensified their training in the final month before the World Tournament. Yamcha starts training in the wild to sharpen his skills, and Colonel Silver would start his hunt for the Dragon Balls for Commander Red around this time. On May 7th, the 21st World Tournament took place, with Jackie Chun being crowned the winner. For the next 6 days, Goku would take on Muscle Tower, train with Korin, defeat Tao Pai Pai, and destroy the Red Ribbon Army on May 12th. That same day, he would face Fortune Teller Baba's warriors and reunite with Gohan. All this barely a week after the World Tournament. Age 753. Goku finished his 3-year-long journey around the world to train, swimming to the World Tournament Island on May 5th. May 7th, the 22nd World Tournament ends with Tien winning by a hair. Krillin is found murdered backstage, and the King Piccolo arc begins. The following day, Goku would fall easily to Piccolo, with Yajirobe taking him to Korin Tower. King Piccolo would regain his youth, destroy Shenron, and start his new reign of terror. He would declare May 9th to be Piccolo Day, where each time every year he would celebrate by destroying a city. Goku would increase his strength with the sacred water and obliterate Piccolo. He would then climb to Kami's Lookout and train to one day fight Piccolo's reincarnation. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chiaotzu trained with Korin for a time, eventually going on to train solo afterwards. The events of the third Dragon Ball movie, Mystical Adventure, should most likely happen on this year. Age 756. Goku trained with Kami for 3 years and reunited with his friends and rivals at the 23rd World Tournament on May 7th. After defeating Piccolo Jr., Chi-Chi and Goku would go on to live in the country. At unknown dates this year, Videl and her classmates are born, and Videl's mother Miguel would pass away while she was young. 1 year later, on May 18th, Goku and Chi-Chi's son is born, and named after his late grandfather. Age 759. Idasa, a future Youth Division competitor, was born this year. Dr. Hedo would also be born from an unknown child of Dr. Gero. Age 760. Idasa's younger brother and another Youth Division competitor, Ikose, was born this year. At some point between here and age 770, Dr. Miyu turned Rildo into a machine mutant and they completely took over planet M2. Age 761. On October 12th, Raditz arrives on Earth and the ensuing conflict results in both his and Goku's deaths. Afterwards, Gohan is forced to survive in the wild by Piccolo. The events of Dead Zone would most likely take place this year. Age 762. Kami trains the Z-Fighters in March in preparation for the Saiyans' arrival. Goku meets King Kai on May 29th. After a couple months, he catches Bubbles and Gregory in July and starts the real training. On November 2nd, Goku is brought back to life and the Saiyans land on the following day. Goku and Co. defeat the invaders with many sacrifices. Meanwhile, Dr. Gero's spy robot collects DNA from the strongest warriors. On November 4th, Goku, Gohan, and Krillin are sent to the hospital. Movies like World's Strongest and Tree of Might have to take place here, as Goku knows Kaioken and Spirit Bomb. After 10 days of healing, learning the Namekian language, and constructing Kami's spaceship, Bulma, Krillin, and Gohan leave for Namek on November 14th. 7 days later, Vegeta would enter a healing pod on Frieza Planet 79 on the 21st. After about 24 days, Vegeta leaves for Namek on December 13th with Qui in tow. 5 more days of travel, and on the 18th, the Earth Trio, Vegeta and Qui land on Namek. Goku leaves for the planet as well around this time, and the deceased Z-Warriors arrive on King Kai's. It took Goku around 230 days to cross Snake Way, yet it only took them a little over 45. The events of the Namek arc then play out for 6 days until Goku arrives on December 24th. The battles with the Ginyu Force and the entire Frieza fight take place on Christmas Eve, with a Super Saiyan Christmas miracle to save the universe. Namek would explode, and everyone but Goku and Frieza are sent to Earth. Age 763. Krillin and Yamcha are revived by the Dragon Balls on May 3rd. On September 10th, Tien and Chiatsu are brought back to life, and the Namekians are wished to a new home planet. The events of the Garlic Jr. saga would then play out in the anime, and Turtle would celebrate his 1000th birthday. Lord Slug may take place around this time, maybe a little before, maybe a little bit after. As Lord Slug is considered comparable to, or even stronger than Frieza by King Kai, it must mean this is a timeline where Goku defeated Frieza without going Super Saiyan. Maybe with an extra strong Spirit Bomb. And now with the Android arc, we are dealing with events that happen in multiple different timelines. I will be going over the timelines as I presented in my previous video, naming them by the order they were chronologically altered in. I'll keep it way more simple than that video though, specifying known events that differ between them. Still in Age 763, the third timeline is created thanks to Cell's stolen time machine arriving from the future, splitting the already fractured time stream Trunks caused into 4 separate timelines. He then burrowed underground in order to build his strength up for the next 3 years. This same year, Frieza's repairs to become Mecha Frieza are completed. Age 764. In August of Timelines 1 and 4, Goku uses instant transmission to arrive on Earth and defeat the Frieza family. He would then, unfortunately, later pass away from a deadly heart virus. In every other timeline, Frieza and Cold are killed by Trunks, who comes back in time to give Goku the heart virus medicine and warn them about the android attack in 3 years' time. In all timelines, Vegeta and Bulma slowly build a relationship and he pushes to become a Super Saiyan. Age 766. Trunks, the son of Bulma and Vegeta, is born, and history would never be the same when he grows up. Age 767. The Daizenshuu says this is the most likely year for Cooler's revenge to take place. If the androids show up in this movie's timeline, they'd have to show up after Cooler. On May 7th, Mr. Satan won the 24th World Martial Arts Tournament, with Videl winning in the junior division. Unclear if this is his first win or another, but I'm gonna guess this is him finally becoming the world champion. Only 5 days later, on May 12th, the androids' attack would begin. In Timelines 1 and 4, Androids 17 and 18 would show up and kill nearly all Z-Fighters with little to no challenge. In Timeline 3 and probably 2, Androids 19 and 20 are the first threat the Z-Fighters face. In Timeline 2, Trunks would find the schematics of Androids 17 and 18. He would use these to exploit their weakness and go back to save his future. In Timeline 3, Trunks becomes aware of Cell's awakening beforehand and does not travel back to the future after discovering the schematics. Everything else in the present Cell arc from here is based on the events of Timeline 3. Apparently, somewhere within the next few days, the events of Super Android 13 are supposed to happen. I guess when 16, 17, and 18 are searching for Goku. On May 15th, Goku awakens from his illness and informs Vegeta and Trunks of his plan with the Time Chamber. May 16th, all the events of Piccolo vs 17 to Cell vs Vegeta and Trunks happen. May 17th, Goku and Gohan exit the Time Chamber and the 10-day waiting period for the Cell games begin. May 18th, Piccolo exits the Time Chamber and Gohan celebrates his 11th birthday. May 19th, Goku brings Dende to Earth in response to Cell's destruction of the world military. Within the 5 days leading up to the Cell games, the events of Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, and plan to eradicate the Saiyans take place. In Return of Cooler, Goku doesn't have Mastered Super Saiyan, and Gohan doesn't have Super Saiyan at all, making me doubt its placement here. But Dende is already Guardian, and the gang already knows about the location of New Namek. So this is a really switched around timeline, making it probably the hardest to place of any of the movies. May 26th, the terror of the Cell games transpire, with the death of Goku, the rise of Gohan, and the defeat of Cell. Funny to think people placed all their hope on Mark the Champ when he may have only been the world champion for about 19 days. Cell's explosion would also release a certain pirate group from their heavenly prison. On the following day, May 27th, Goku's funeral is held, and Trunks returns to the future. Some point after, before June, Goku enters the Otherworld tournament and ends with a draw against Pikkon. Mr. Satan would have a documentary created about his life and how he became the world's savior. In June of this year, Bojack's crew traveled to Earth and met a grisly fate against Gohan. At some point in the second half of the year, Goten is born and Bulma gets married to Vegeta. Age 770. During this time of peace, Android 18 and Krillin get married. Their child Marin would be born next year in age 771. Age 773. Shin and Kibito travel to Earth to search for Majin Buu's magically sealed ball, finding no trace. But it may be that Babidi already got his hands on Buu and is biding his time, gathering energy to resurrect him. Age 774. March 28th of this year, Gohan starts the enrollment process to attend Orange Star High School, finally getting in on April 7th. He becomes the Great Saiyaman to protect his identity while stopping criminals, but Videl just finds out his identity the following day, and on April 9th, Gohan would teach her how to fly. After only 11 days of training, Videl would accomplish her goal and go on to train solo for the upcoming tournament. Broly's second coming most likely takes place during this time right before the tournament as well. On May 7th, the Buu arc begins in earnest, with Mr. Satan winning the 25th World Tournament, Buu resurrecting, and all the other crazy events we know about up until Super Buu is born. The following day, Buu would fight Gotenks, Gohan, and Vegito before becoming Kid Buu and being destroyed on the world of the Kais. King Yemma hears Goku's request to fight Buu as a good guy in the future, so Oob is born on this same day, May 8th. Vice Supreme Demon King Goma would watch the events unfold, and then take the seat of ruler upon Dabura's death. In November, Shenron would erase the memory of Buu from everyone in the world outside of the Z-Fighters, 6 months after the first wish in the arc. Bio Broly somehow would take place after the World Tournament. How? I don't know. Fusion Reborn takes place after Goku fights Buu, but I guess Gotenks may have defeated him because neither Goku or Vegeta are alive. Or, I never saw Gohan go Super Saiyan in that movie, maybe he locked in and didn't fraud out against Super Buu. Wrath of the Dragon would take place after Kid Buu's defeat, but not before the year ends. Age 775. Trunks turns 9 years old, as his birthday party is the start of Dragon Ball Daima. Here, Goku and friends would go to the Demon Realm and liberate it from Supreme Demon King Goma. In GT, Dr. Mew gives Daltaki the machine mutant Lude in order to gather more energy for Baby. Age 776. Vegeta and his younger brother Tarbell reunite as the villains Abba and Kato are swiftly defeated. Age 778. Gohan and Videl get married, and Videl becomes pregnant. In August of that year, Beerus would seek out the Super Saiyan God and kick off the events that would send our characters into the realm of gods. Age 779. A young Pan is born in May. Later on, Frieza would become revived by the Dragon Balls and begin training for 4 months in order to exact his revenge. Thanks to their training with Whis, Goku and Vegeta would put a stop to him once again. That same year, we witnessed the Tournament of Destroyers with Monaka obtaining the win for Universe 7. Still this same year, future Trunks would travel back in time to warn about Goku Black. Beerus destroying Zamasu would cause a rift in time, leading to Timeline 3's last known events being Zamasu stealing Goku's body and heading into the future. Timeline 5 now continues the events of Dragon Ball Super going forward. Trunks and Mai would also end up creating a new timeline before the events of Goku Black's invasion. Around this year would also be the plot of Dragon Ball FighterZ Story Mode, involving the appearance of Android 21. Age 780. In Timeline 1 and 4, this is the year Gohan falls in battle to the androids, causing Trunks to become a Super Saiyan in the anime. I guess this depressing future caused Trunks to grow up faster. In Timeline 5, the Tournament of Power takes place with Universe 7 as the winner and Android 17 as the MVP. Thanks to Whis, Bola is born this year without any trouble for Bulma. Frieza would also bring Broly to Earth this same year to dispose of Goku and Vegeta, only to unintentionally grant them a new future ally. This is the same year Dragon Ball Legends Story Mode takes place, but we have yet to see the full theme play out, so who knows if there will be a long time skip or not. This year and next is about the time frame for Super Dragon Ball Heroes story. I won't really delve into the plot beats here, as I'd love to break that down in the future. Kind of a nebulous area into age 780 and 781. 10 million years after his imprisonment, Moro escapes the galactic prison and the events of the Moro arc take place. There are stretches of time for months where Goku and Vegeta train to face the Vile Magician, so it's unclear where the transition to the next year takes place. A few months after Moro's defeat, the Granola arc happens, with the end result being Frieza's new position at the top of the food chain. The 50-year-old Granola used up the rest of his lifespan in exchange to become one of the strongest mortals in the universe. He would have initially lived for around 200 years to about the year age 931, but now he only has 3 years left to live. Age 781. On May 7th, you know what time it is, Mr. Satan wins the World Tournament, with Boo throwing the match in his buddy's favor. Age 782. Trunks and Goten's little mini-arc against Dr. Hedo takes place. After the mad scientist is sent to prison, Magenta would bail him out 3 months later on the condition he comes on board to work for the Red Ribbon Army. Age 783. 6 months after Dr. Hedo joined the old regime, he sent Gamma 2 to dispose of Piccolo. Of course, from there, the events of Superhero happen. Gohan, Goten, and Trunks would then come to spar with Goku, Vegeta, and Broly on Beerus' planet. Sadly, at some point this year or next is when Granola was predicted to pass away. Age 784. In Timelines 1 and 4, Trunks would go back to the present to warn of the androids. In Timeline 5 this year, the 28th World Tournament commences, with Goku leaving to train Oob at his village. The tournament would then unfortunately be cancelled. Age 785. In Timeline 1, Cell would steal Trunks' time machine after he robbed the creature of the androids. In Timeline 4, after Trunks returns from the present, he ends up destroying his future's androids with just raw power. By the way, the events of Dragon Ball Online's timeline would start here. I already made a whole video on that topic, so go check that out after this one, as I'd rather not regurgitate everything I said there. Think of it as a companion piece to this. Age 788. In Timeline 4, Trunks would get ready to go back to give the good news to his friends from the past, but not before destroying his Timeline Cell. This is a bit speculative, but Timeline 2 dictates that the Cell games of that timeline would happen without Trunks. Considering Future Cell appears in Timeline 3, that means they probably face their own Timeline 2 Cell, which of course would have woken up about this time. How this would go down is anyone's guess. Does he face End of Z level Z fighters? Is he just greeted by a lone Majin Buu? Can he even find the androids to become perfect? All we know is it's gotta be a very interesting Cell games. Age 789. Here, the events of the baby arc happen. Goku becomes a kid again, goes on a grand tour, defeats the Sufurian baby, and Piccolo dies in order to disable the Black Star Dragon Balls. Age 790. The 30th World Tournament ends with Mr. Satan beating Majub. Then the invasion of Earth by Hell's forces would be sprung by Dr. Gero and Miyu, creating Super 17. The Shadow Dragon arc would happen as a result of trying to fix the mess of this last arc, with the Earth Dragon Balls being overloaded with negative energy. The Shadow Dragons would be defeated, and Goku would disappear into space with Shenron. Age 795. Right before this date in Timeline 4, Trunks would destroy Babidi and Dabura before they could wake up Boo. Goku Black and Future Zamasu would eradicate the other Supreme Kais of the multiverse, leaving only them to reign. They would then ravage Earth, forcing the survivors to hide in fear. Timeline 6 would also be created before this point to prevent the death of Shin. Age 796. In Timeline 4, the Future Trunks arc happens as it's presented. It's a back and forth between the mortals and deities until Zeno erases this world from existence. Long into the future past this, the story of Extreme Butoden's Adventure Mode is set. This story is actually a sequel to GT, with Goku having grown up from his child body in the original GT story. He and the other Z Fighters fight former villains thanks to Omega Shenron's return manipulating space-time. He would eventually meet Beerus and Whis, becoming a Super Saiyan God through these events. Age 850. This is the year Xenoverse 1 and its events take place. 2 years later would be the events of Xenoverse 2, and it's crazy to think that all of Xenoverse 2's content may take place in 1 year. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Hopefully we'll find out in Xenoverse 3, huh? In Age 880, the latest descendants of the Proud Warrior race, Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. are born. Age 889, Dragon Ball GT A Hero's Legacy happens this year. 9-year-old Goku Jr. would then face off against Vegeta Jr. in the grand finals of the World Tournament, and Pan would catch a glimpse of Goku, not seen on this planet in over 100 years. Ultimate Tenkaichi's Adventure Mode is set after this period, where the future has been torn apart by an evil wish. Its story is so bizarre, I'd love to cover it in the future. Age 2016. Rivals Tekka and Pinich wish for the ultimate time-space martial arts tournament, becoming the plot of Dragon Ball Fusions. Also, in Dragon Ball Heroes, the actual universe outside of the card game takes place in the far distant future. Meaning to characters like Beat, it's like playing a trading card game or virtual simulator about people from ancient history. What do you think this is, Yu-Gi-Oh? Regardless, who knows how far in the future this is. And so, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I wanted to give you guys a decently long video to start off 2026. May not be as long as some of my other videos from last year, but I think the length here is well earned. I'm believing this year will be a great one for all of us, and I'll catch you all next time.